quickly. And there's somebody okay, great. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Debra Valentina from Creativing, and I'm a holistic intuitive coach and a host for the Centers for Spiritual Living After Lunch series. Welcome, Sid. It is so great to have you here today for our dialogue about the leadership development work at the World Academy for the Future of Women. And for those of you watching now or later, I would like to introduce you to our special guest, Sid West. Sid is the CEO and board president for the World Academy for the Future of Women, which is committed to accelerating women's leadership worldwide. And after a long career in healthcare leadership, which is where I met Sid, Sid now also leads the Strong Heart Study in Arizona as part of a national consortium of scientists and researchers devoted to improving the cardiovascular health of American Indians. Her 12 years with the World Academy, and I was with Sid at the very beginning of this, so remember it well. Her 12 years highlights her commitment to women's issues and the belief that engagement and education are critical to support the women leaders of today and tomorrow throughout the world. So welcome again, Sid. It's so great to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, so to start off, if you could please share with our audience a bit about the history, the vision, and the mission for the World Academy for the Future of Women.
Oh, I'd be delighted, and thank you so much for inviting me today. I met a force of nature named Jerry Uberly about 12 years ago, who had the gem of this idea for the World Academy of the Future of Women, which began in 2009 at CIAS International University in Henan, China, where she was just leaving as board president for the university. She had run an organization called Global Interactions, which brought American and Chinese groups together, science and social sciences and different types of professional groups. And so she had attended the Beijing UN Women's Conference, the one that Hillary Clinton spoke at. And
yes,
out of that conference was the UN Millennium Goals, which was 13 goals that were intended to help improve women and children's lives throughout the world. And when she went back to the UN Women's Conference in 2009, what she realized is hardly any of those items that they had chosen had moved. They had a 15-year plan to move them. In fact, the one that moved the most was treating malaria, which, as you know, the Microsoft Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had pushed so hard. But yes, most of the other ones had not moved at all. And so she decided her legacy project, as she left the board at CIAS University, was to start a women's academy to develop leadership skills in order to start chipping away at those millennium goals that were set up by the UN. And so the goal, and you said it earlier, was to accelerate women's leadership worldwide. But how do we do that? Well, one of the ways we achieve that is by helping women learn the knowledge of how to be a leader and then give them the actions to do it, which is to focus projects on the UN Millennium Goals. And so, so the way that it was structured initially, and it was developed by a team of women that were a national group that helped in about 2009 put the first modules together. And it brings facilitators from the US and other Western countries, people who've had successful careers and lives, but also have had, we use the term bruised knees and broken hearts, who've lived. We want people who've had really full lives. to spend time with these young women. We have a basic curriculum which brings them through the leadership skill development. But the other piece of this that we didn't even realize was so critical was the relationship development. So bringing through 8 different facilitators over an academic year to spend with these young women was much more powerful than any of us expected, as kind of a special sauce. So this started in the Henan, China, CIAS International University. It became an Aspire chapter with the UN in 2014, and since then has expanded into Asia.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Sid. And as you know, I was a facilitator in Eastern China in 2017, one of the greatest things I've ever done on so many levels. But you are sharing some history that I didn't even know about the organization. And it really is a very, very potent organization. So you mentioned that you have expanded to Asia, and I'm wondering what countries, in addition to China, the World Academy is doing its work, and whether there's any expansion plans.
Yeah, well, in recent years, we opened up in Nepal, in Kathmandu, and in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And in both those countries, their English is very good. So this was an interesting, kind of new development, because in China, even though they spoke English, we had to do a lot of translating. In Dhaka and Kathmandu, there's very little need for translation, which was surprising, but a great deal of need for supporting women. I went to Bangladesh last spring to do my 5 weeks there, and it'd never been a place that I thought I would go. It was not on my bucket list. You know what I mean? It was not a place I was planning on visiting, but I am so glad I went. The people there are so beautiful. They're like flowers. I don't even know how to express it, but I was just intensely amazed with the vibrancy and vitality of the women there, and the faculty as well. We team up with universities in order to expand the World Academy, and we actually have letters of commitment from several South American countries and universities in Peru and Colombia, and also a few African countries. But we can't execute those until we have more facilitators, because that's kind of our limited resource is having people, one, willing to spend 5 weeks. That's a big volunteer gig to spend 5 weeks, and I know you know that because you did it. But
I do.
It's a big deal, and but all I can tell you is it does change your life. It changes you, and it changed me. And like I said, I was not expecting what I got out of Dhaka. I never thought it'd be a place that I would go, but I would go back now. And so I feel really fortunate for that. But the key things is we have to have a university partner who's really committed to the advancement of women and who supports the program.
Yes, and the facilitators, as you mentioned.
Yeah, they put up the facilitators, so we get room and board for the facilitators when they're there.
So I know that there's so many success stories that come out of the World Academy for the Future of Women. And I'm talking about the young women that are trained as leaders through this program. So I'm wondering if you have a success story to share with the audience regarding a graduate of the program.
Well, there's so many. I mean, the alumni just blow me away when I talk to them. And we, because of Zoom and the different formats, we chat quite often. The most recent person I've spent a lot of time with is Gloria Pan. And Gloria was in one of the early cohorts of the World Academy. And she came from a farming family. She was one of the only girls, to go to college in her family. And she had a dream, which was she wanted to study in the United States. And she came about, I think it was like her second year in, and said, I feel like I've lost my dream. And the facilitator was working with her at that time said, why do you say that? And she said, because my parents don't have the money for me to go to school in the United States. And the facilitator said, well, what does that have to do with it? Because we are in the business of possibilities and helping these young women see there's many, many different ways to do things. There's many paths to get there. There's many ways to express yourself. And that is our main goal, is to help them find their true expression, and however that is. Anyway, Gloria was able to, with the encouragement of the facilitators at the World Academy, find a means to start putting in for scholarships. And she got a full ride scholarship at Thunderbird International School of Business here in Phoenix, and then some in Switzerland. And she got to work all over the world. She worked in Bolivia with that group, and she worked on supply side. And her goal was to create jobs and opportunities for women in that business sector. And she's doing it now. She's doing it. And so to see her go from the biggest question, I can get a dream, but how do I manifest it? And I do have to say, you know, in the early days when women first joined the Academy, and we talk about you have a voice and you have a choice, and ask them what their dreams are. These to them are totally new questions. You know, we grow up in that field in the United States. We drink that water all our lives. This was totally new information to them. And the tears that would come, and just the breathtaking ahas that would happen. And they wake up to the potential of what their lives can be, much bigger than they ever thought.
Yes, and you're definitely making me have memories, beautiful memories of being in China, where my most profound, I think my most profound making a difference was having one-on-one conversations with these women about possibilities, and not what their parents are telling them or their society is telling them, but what is actually possible, and kind of thinking outside the box, so to speak. So when you talked earlier about relationships, I see how relationships with the facilitators, and certainly I had that experience, was seemed to me much more potent than the actual curriculum, which was potent. So I know, yes. So I know that you have a deep, deep passion for this organization. So can you share with us a little bit about why you are so passionate about it? That you started to say, but really, what makes you so deeply passionate?
Yeah. Well, it starts with a belief. And my belief is that we need to help each other as women. We need to support each other in growing and fixing some of these problems that unfortunately we've left these next generations. They need help. And I see young women, and even in my generation, I'll give you an example. My mother is the best example for me. She never was helped by anyone. No other women in our family helped her, and she was worth it. She still is worth it. but I was like, what could she have done in her life if somebody had given her a little more support? And so I feel like we owe it to this generation to give them all the support that's possible, so that they can find their full expression in life. Because the amount of power that is unexpressed by women is unacceptable. I mean, it's the reason we have the situation we do in the world. You know, we have all of the things that we need to fix our big problems. Why can't we do it? And you look at the United Nations SDGs and things like that. Why can't we do this? We spend enough on wars. We spend enough on other things. But for some reason, we can't get hunger, maternal health, just basic things covered. And so I feel like women are the answer to that, because we care so deeply on those kinds of things. And
And
So
I would
so it's yeah.
so agree. I would so agree. And there's many studies from the UN
Mhm.
that say that you just give women leadership and everything changes for the better.
It
Uh,
does. It
and
does.
so I'm deeply passionate about this issue as well. So I'm going to switch gears for a moment, and I'm wondering what I'm calling this transformational time, how
Yeah.
it's affected the World Academy, particularly around the restrictions on worldwide travel.
Yeah.
So how has that affected the World Academy?
Well, pretty significantly. We had one facilitator who was on her way to um, Bangladesh. She was in the Hong Kong airport and she couldn't leave the airport. They right then shut down all of the countries. And so finally we got her back to the US, but that was the tightest spot that we've ever had. We've decided for the time being that to use this pause, as we call it, to engage with the women that are part of the Academy through Zoom meetings. And so a number of us have been facilitators of adopted groups of women members. And we call it My Sister's Keeper. We're just kind of keeping each other going. So we use pieces of not just the curriculum, but just our lives. And so like I've been meeting 3 mornings a week with Bangladesh women and hearing what their lives are like. And they've been stuck in apartments for 3 months, sometimes longer. So it's really interesting hearing what their families are like. How do we reach out to people? We were worried very much about domestic violence. We've made that our keystone project during COVID-19 because people are trapped in their homes, sometimes with their abusers. How can we reach out and help them? And so we're using social media and things like that to develop projects while we are working at home to get that done. And on another note, we're developing online curriculum. And this gives us an opportunity to kind of develop pieces of the academy that can be done a long distance. It's not a substitute for the relationship development that we know is so important. So, I mean, we want to get back to that model. But we feel like it's a way that we can engage larger groups of people in basically the leadership training and development that's available to them through this program. And so we're continuing to do that. And we're
Great.
continuing to build our board and see if we can attract more facilitators who want to be part of the program.
Perfect. And that's a perfect segue as we wrap up. What would you like to leave our audience with regarding the World Academy? And where can the audience find out more about the World Academy?
Oh, well, if you are devoted to women's leadership, this is a great place to plug in. And there's many, many different ways to plug in. We have a lot of people from education who've helped us, people like Deb with the leadership background and business development. It's been such an honor to work with women from all over the world. One of our facilitators right now is a retired diplomat from the Netherlands. So we have a really huge variety. We have the past head of Girl Scouts of America. So it's an august group, but we need a lot more. As I said, that our ability to expand is based on the number of facilitators we have. And also we always, as a growing organization, need more skills. So you can always find us at www.wafw.org. And that's World Academy for the Future of Women.org. And you can see all the things about our organization. And one last thing, which we didn't do this year, but we will be doing even if we have to do it online next year. We hold a women's symposium, an international symposium of women leaders. We usually get about 10,000 participants at that now. So it's grown to be a very huge event that we hold in Asia. And we'll hopefully continue to hold that. So always looking for people interested in being speakers and presenters at that conference.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sid, for sharing your deep passion for the World Academy for the Future of Women.
You're welcome.
So before signing off, I would like to share with you that the Centers for Spiritual Living Education Department has developed an exciting new secular leadership development series. And so to learn more about that, please email leadershipdevelopment@csl.org. Again, that's leadershipdevelopment@csl.org. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
And please join us next Tuesday, July 21st at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time as the After Lunch series continues when Reverend Marie Kirkland interviews Reverend Ogla Silva about creating a spiritual foundation during the pandemic response in Latin America.